We've just recorded a fantastic episode on Brazilian powerlifting. We sit down with an athlete and a coach, Marco and Daniel, who are involved in growing their sport in Brazil. We talk about what they are doing to grow the sport, the current state of powerlifting in Brazil, and how they're working to get both state and local sponsorship. We also discuss the many benefits that powerlifting can bring to an individual lifter and to a community, and particularly to youths that are struggling. Join us for coffee and conversations with champions, the powerlifting edition now. Okay, sorry, I lost that powerlifting edition bit, but there you go, guys. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations with Champions. I'm leaving this in because this is a good one. If you're from the South American region, this is definitely for you. If you're from Brazil, definitely for you. There is a little bit of Portuguese, but primarily English, and we spoke about maybe doing a follow-up conversation in Portuguese. But Daniel has a brilliant idea on how to combine both English education and powerlifting. Enjoy, guys. Us. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you proudly by Emmet Beats, music by athletes for athletes. It's music that you can use in your live streams, on your social media posts, without fear of any copyright infringement. And now we're proud to announce the launch of the walkout edition of our fourth album, Big Dog. This is music that you can have played at any event streamed by Emmet Media. Any competition that you come to that Emmet Media is streaming, you can ask to have the song on this album played as your walkout music. It's a series of 90-second tracks that you can train to and practice to and set your mind to, knowing that when the beat drops exactly, that's when you're going to bring what you need to bring to the platform. I'll stop the background moving because people find that confusing. And there we go. So guys, welcome to Coffee and Conversations with Champions. We're sitting down with two champions, Marco and Daniel from Brazil. You know, I think we need one of these, guys. Or at least, you know, a good round of applause. Okay, awesome. So guys, I think let's get started with a brief introduction. I think, Marco, we've had you on the show first, or before, at Sun City, which was awesome. It looks like they made you go sit in a cupboard. And guys, don't worry, he is wearing pants. I'm not sure if Daniel is, but sure. No,
I'm not sure either.
That's it. So, all right, cool. So, Marco, will you start off first, please? Give us a rundown. Who are you? A little bit of your background, please.
Okay. My name is Marco Antonio. I live here in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I started in the sport of powerlifting just 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm a beginner in the sport. So I found out for powerlifting through the social media, and then I contacted Daniel, that today it's my coach and one of the head directors of our federation here in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, mm-hmm. And he told me about the sport, and after that we began to train together. And just in 2021, I did my first competition, on stage competition. Then I won the state competition and began doing the state records there. And then he led me to the national competition. Then I won there also. Then that leads me to the South American competition, and I won there also. Mm-hmm. So it's like a cycle, and I become passionate with the sport really quickly. And today, and this year, I went to the World Bench Press Championship. It was great when I met. I have the great opportunity to meet Nick and Simon and all the South African Federation. Everyone's great, and it's that's this the I think for this sport is that's my short history,
Oh,
and but it's just beginning. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, awesome.
let me take my coach Daniel to introduce himself and we'll talk about.
And Daniel, welcome to the show. And we've got 4 people watching, which is great. So please give us a rundown on who you are, your a brief history. Dr. Daniel.
All right, thank you for the invite. Yeah, well, it's the doctor, but I'm also I'm not exactly a doctor.
Oh, Dan, can you? I think we're
For
losing
education,
Daniel a
I'm an
bit there.
engineer. So I have Brazil is something really weird. Am I
Yeah,
delayed
Daniel, it's a bad
or did I
connection
just
there.
flick?
Yeah, I think we were just losing you there for a moment. Could you run through that again, please?
Okay, so I like to always explain that I am a doctor, but I have a doctorate in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly in physical education as people would expect here in Brazil, because usually in Brazil, to coach and to train people, well, you have to have an undergraduate degree, which I
Mm-hmm.
do have, but that was like a second run, through university. I was taking my doctorates, and my wife pulled my ear and she said, this is starting to become like an obsession. You should at least make it professional. So I went there and got the degree. But my initials are DR. So and that time, like around 2019, somebody I was very keen to kettlebells. Those were my main training tools because you couldn't find barbells and plates so easily in
Mm-hmm.
Rio, and I had a background with them. And somebody at some point called me Dr. Kettlebell just for fun, and I listened and I said, I don't want to be Dr. Kettlebell. I don't want to be stuck with this the only two. I want to use all bells if I can. So I got a joke to say Dr. Bell, and then I got the Daniel Runkle. So it's not exactly a doctor like in Doctore. It's
Yeah.
more like just my initials. That said, sorry for the long explaining. So I'm a coach in Rio de Janeiro, as Marco said. I'm director at the local federation, our state federation. We've been at this for the last 6 years. We actually got our fourth run now. No, actually our third, with the same president. And nowadays I deal with the finances. But in the middle of the pandemic, Marco, he called us and we started talking. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be predatory, just I was the guy who picked up the phone. So just something with me that didn't seem like an ethical thing. So I started trying to suggest how he could find places to train and people to train with. But after seeing that he was eager and nobody was really around to take care of him, I said, okay, so let's begin with this. And to my great pleasure, Marco is a guy with a long training history. He's got over 20 years of essentially power building. You
Mm-hmm.
if when we discuss his training, we can see that he's not completely a bodybuilder. He had a lot of passion to do like heavy weights. So it wasn't like a very hard transition. Yeah, and the funny thing is I always have to explain because people cannot believe, and it goes, okay, how can it be in the Clean Federation? I said, just making piss on a cup. It's very easily to find it
Yeah.
out because the guys and people don't believe the accumulation of years of training that you can get. But he's a very correct guy, and it couldn't be any other way because
Mm-hmm.
we're very far away from each other. So I have a lot of trust in him, and it's been a pleasure training him. I've mostly got master athletes at this
Mm-hmm.
point, just like him. But even people older, I actually have a grandmother who's 93 years old, and I'm slowly putting the idea in her head to just put on a singlet and shock people. I think I'm gonna get it there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, cool, man. So is it? We've got 2 comments already. I don't know if you guys have you guys seen them?
Yeah.
Are they on
It's
YouTube
like
or Facebook?
people want to hear our talk in Portuguese, so I just
Okay.
just helped him.
So
Que, que a gente vai
just
conversar
on that, if you
português.
guys want to answer, you can give me a brief answer in English and then a bigger answer in
Ok,
Portuguese. That's fine. All right.
No,
So
but that's
ok, but
okay. That's a way to you to put on Portuguese with the
yeah.
closed caption.
Okay.
So I
okay.
told here
Are
on the
they
chat.
okay? Are they? Is it on Facebook or YouTube?
It's on both. So we've got from most of these comments are from YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So just that's fine.
That's
Okay.
okay. After the
So
interview, I'll send them with Portuguese. Just
okay, right. Yeah,
that's like that's
it's a bad.
Okay. Well, do you guys want to
okay.
give a brief? Let's do a brief introduction onto who both of you are. Again, maybe in Portuguese. Shall we do that?
All right.
Cool.
Fala,
Dan,
Marco.
let's kick it off with you. Yep.
Ok. Então, eu sou Daniel Runke, eu sou treinador aqui do Rio de Janeiro, Brasil, tesoureiro da Federação, da PERJ, e treinador do Marco Antônio. Eu estou no esporte desde 2013, inicialmente fazendo pequenos campeonatos, e aí ativamente organizando, né, sendo atleta, amador, e ativamente organizando os campeonatos desde 2016, dentro da federação, ajudei a fundar, e de 2019 a 2020 vim conversando com o Marco Antônio para a participação dele, a pandemia deu uma atrasada, mas em 2021 a gente colocou isso a jogo e botamos essa força para ganhar a medalha, e tem sido um prazer imenso trabalhar com um atleta master, é sempre uma vantagem imensa. Vai lá, Marco.
Cool. And Marco. Obrigado.
Bem, eu estou no esporte, eu comecei no esporte há 2 anos atrás, por intermédio do Daniel, que me apresentou o esporte e me fez, né, mudar um pouquinho dessa rotina de treino de bodybuilding, né, na questão de musculação, que quando vai para o powerlifting você vai ver que é completamente diferente, né, tem que tirar vários hábitos antigos, assim, ficou mais difícil para ele, né, porque teve que pegar uma questão que já estava com alguns vícios, né, de treino, e eu me apaixonei pelo esporte, eu estou direto seguindo aqui todos os campeonatos possíveis, esse ano deu uma engatada nos campeonatos internacionais, fui para o campeonato do Arnold, fui para o Mundial na África do Sul, e vamos continuar. E acho que o nosso objetivo aqui é fazer com que o powerlifting, o supino, no meu caso, que seja cada vez maior, um esporte cada vez maior aqui no Rio de Janeiro e no Brasil. Tá? Obrigado por estarem acompanhando.
Okay, awesome. So I think when I ask a question, then if one of you guys can just translate sort of what the question was, and we can get into it. Thank you. Marco, I'm saying, is that your dad? Because I'm seeing...
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's the one that's confused with the English.
Okay. Hey, Mr. De Silva. So that's fantastic. So I think we wanted to have a chat about sort of where powerlifting is in Brazil, the state of powerlifting in Brazil. So I think, if you can sort of, Marco, give us a rundown on that, why we decided to have this chat. And then Daniel, if you can give your thoughts as well, please.
Okay.
Do you want to start then?
Ok. Então, primeiro explicando a pergunta, o Nick está perguntando qual que é o estado atual do powerlifting no Brasil. Okay, so I'm going to go English Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing we have to know is that powerlifting in Brazil is actually it has decades old. It's not recently grounded. You know, the sport is growing very much in the last few years, but it's been around since the 70s. But it was that very prolific time in which the competitors of any strength sports, they usually did all three. You know, they did weightlifting, they did powerlifting, they also did bodybuilding. We had a local champion here in Rio who did powerlifting competitions in the United States as well as competed in the Mr. Olympia with I'm not what is his name, the
Surge.
Frank.
Mm.
Well, I miss his name, but Nelson Carvalho, which was the athlete. He's a very very famous coach. He died a few years ago, and but from then on, with all the transformations that the sport had, especially the introduction of equipment, it became very hard to introduce new people to the sport up until I'd say 2011, 2012, with the explosion of raw powerlifting, and then
Mm.
it really caught on. That was a little before me, like 1 or 2 years before I came to the sport, and then it's been growing like wildfire. We've had a lot of distant communities which we didn't know had any interest catching on. CrossFit has had a very uh,
Mm-hmm.
interesting impact because we've been able to gather around the people who got enamored by the weightlifting aspect of it, but not so much as the metabolic conditioning, and this has been joy and a pleasure to see. Which is to say that on the public side and on the athlete side, we've been growing. On the more institutionalized and supportive side of the sport, we're still establishing the basis. Actually, I got an offer to discuss government funding this week about how could we approach it and how could we maybe ask for it. Just get on a system to plead some sort of funding. Still uncertain, but it's a way. So things are very new in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Marco has a more interesting local experience in which he met with like the local city and officials around him where he lives, and then he was able to gather much more information and also support, and that's which is unexpected, but at the same time comprehensible, given that in Brazil you can do a lot more things locally, although the money is federal.
Okay.
Ok? Basicamente explicando que eu estou no esporte desde 2012, 2013, e o que a gente vê de lá para cá é que o esporte tem crescido muito. Ele já existia da década de 70 para cá, mas tem sido um crescimento exponencial na época que o Raw, né, o clássico, começou a entrar sem a necessidade de usar equipamento, de competir com equipamento. Mas de lá para cá a gente tem crescido em atletas, tem crescido em treinadores, mas o apoio para o esporte ainda é parco. As empresas e os governos ainda tendem a ter dificuldade de nos enxergar pelo que nós somos, pelo que a gente consegue oferecer. Então, tem sido interessante ver como que a gente explora isso. E essa semana mesmo eu tive conversa com um assessor de uma deputada para ver questões de auxílio de verba, emendas impositivas, que venham a poder incrementar a nossa compra de equipamentos e organização de eventos. E aí vamos ver, novos capítulos. Mas o Marco tem uma experiência local com prefeitura, que é bem distinta da que eu tenho e de repente pode falar mais, ok? Bom, Marco.
Okay, as Daniel told us, we have a lack of government investment here. The federal government, as he told us, only for highly regarded athletes in Olympic sports, we have a bit of this kind of investment. So as powerlifting is not yet Olympic sport, it's really hard to get from the federal government some attention for the sport. So as in Brazil, in like private investments are mostly for soccer. So we don't have the eyes of the companies on powerlifting. But people don't realize how great powerlifting can get to the image of companies. Mm-hmm. So as Daniel told us, I got support from my city hall, from the Secretary of Sports here in Niterói. Mm-hmm. They sponsored my trip to South Africa to the World Bench Press Championship. That was great, and I'm really grateful for that because they opened their heart and their wallets for the sport. So they invested in a sport that I have to tell them what powerlifting is. So most people don't know. We say about powerlifting, people ask about the Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
Yes, just like this, and we have to explain them that it's more available than as they think they are, because they people do that at the gyms. They go bench pressing, they go squatting, they go to the these movements from powerlifting. They are actually used to do it. So it was when I told the sports secretary, they love it, the idea, and they saw the potential of the sport to grow here locally in Niterói. So I hope to be able to spread the powerlifting here in my city through projects from the secretary. And I have also another good experience with a company here in Brazil that it's really different. People just think that powerlifting can be joined with the supplements industry, but it's not like this. I have a company here that's like is specialized in lifting and maritime movements using cranes in the harbors, and they support also me to go to these events. So
Sure.
they companies have to see that powerlifting can be used for spreading a good image for them.
Yes.
So yeah. I think we're just starting. So it's like the athletes and the federations. We have to go after the sponsor, because we have to explain what the sport is. I think I'm not going to translate everything, because after the video we put the closed caption. So it's gonna be really tedious to answer 2 times what we're
Okay.
going.
100%. Can you give us a brief synopsis of what you said? We're getting, and Tony, who you met in South Africa, is saying, I met Marco at the IPF World Bench in Sun City. He's a fine human being. So absolutely. Can you guys see the captions when I put them up on the screen? The comments.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I
Awesome.
see.
Yeah, and
Hi,
there's a,
Tony. Really
yeah.
great to see you here, man.
Awesome, man. No, it was great.
Hope to see you later again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also you had someone giving you applause. There we go. Thank you. I'm
Hi,
Marco's
Monique.
father.
Thank you
Hey!
for being here.
And your dad. That's so cool. All right, awesome. Come on, Dan, where's your... All right, okay. That's it. So where do you guys see the future of powerlifting going now in Brazil? What would you like to see happening? What's the dream? And then also I want to talk about the value of powerlifting to the communities within Brazil as well. So I think let's talk about the goal, where you'd like it to go, and then sort of what's the dream for the sport.
All right. So if I have to say more institutionally, I mean,
Mm.
coach wise, I want my athletes to win. I want them to go places. I want them to meet people like yourself and to be able to represent well our country. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that we actually talk a lot about. I mean, we really don't want to send just any athlete on an international mission to compete because as much as he may be able to get a medal or two, we want him to embody the values that we prophesize and
Mm-hmm.
the ideas of the good athlete from Brazil that we want. So yes, he has to have the good numbers, but he also has to embody what we believe is a good position, a good
Mm-hmm.
attitude towards the sport. But in terms of institution, we that's what we see and what we want, right? So the perception is that the sport is gaining traction, especially because of the waning of the interest on bodybuilding. Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic has raised awareness of the fact that exercise has a big place on people's physical and mental health, and that there are certain things associated with being on top of your own training and of your habits that makes you a more resilient, anti-fragile, we could say, participant in society. However, gyms were usually the place where people would go to go at themselves in the mirror and just think about how much of a pump are they getting from each set. And mostly here in Brazil, we have the phenomenon, which is a very unfortunate one, that I think only 4% of people that sign up for a gym are going to stay more than 6 months. So
Wow.
commercial gyms have a really big problem here, which they need to have retention. And the case that we're making with them is like you cannot have retention if you're working a business model of a nightclub.
Mm,
Nightclubs
mm.
don't have retention. You don't go for 3 years to the same nightclub. You essentially create a scene, and the people who open a nightclub usually think, oh, okay, it's just gonna be like 2 years of it, and then it moves on, like
Yes.
a more long-term carnival ride, but not more than that. Gyms have a better outcome when they see themselves as a long-term commitment, not just for the clients to themselves, but with themselves. I mean, oh, the guy's been here for 20 years. He's brought you a lot of revenue. He's actually paid for your son's college.
Hmm.
That's what it means to be sustainable as a business. But if you're selling to him quick gains, maybe even some discounts on supplements that he doesn't still need because he's still making beginner gains, you're gonna have a lot of options for him to look around and say, "Oh, that looks flashier. My friends are going to another
Mm.
gym. That guy's selling me, I don't know, a discounted headband for whatever it is. If I sign up now, or the first month is free, and things don't progress, so they have to turn the wheel very fast. I think the best position that we have is to raise awareness that the public wants that, and actually we're finding that out, but it doesn't really come from just our effort. It's
Hmm.
coming actually from people like Marco and other people that not just represent the sport in a good way when they're training, that they can be seen in the gym doing steady, good work,
Hmm.
but also they try to put a positive message when they're outside of the gym, especially to the guys and to the other families, that you can be a healthy individual in society and not completely obsessed with yourself and still train power and still train strength. People people have the image that we're like completely egotistic and obsessed just
Right.
because we take time for ourselves, and it's the opposite. Most of us essentially started with this because they want to be strong enough to endure life and be there for others, and provide for our families without having to take like sick days leave
Hmm.
every now and then. No, I want to be there, and that involves putting in time and effort, putting in the bank. And so my vision is for people to understand that powerlifting has a more sustainable, steady, and healthy outlook of a lifetime practice. That's what I would like to see them catching on. If they catch it on, the companies are going to see the good report, and then they're going to want to invest. The government
Yeah.
is not going to have to be it's not going to be able to ignore us, and then maybe we can also pledge for the funding that they say they are going to direct to the sport. But it's usually the same soccer matches that gather that money. That's what we see. Marco, share your thoughts.
Okay, I think Rio de Janeiro specifically has the incredible potential for growing powerlifting. Here, the body culture here is very strong.
Hmm.
So people know the sport, but they know that they can compete on this. They do bench pressing in the gym. They do squatting, as I told you. So people just have to know the sport, and it's like this. We have to have more opportunities from local governments or federal governments to show the sport to the public, to the open public,
Yes.
because yes, because when people see people practicing, competing the sport. People love it. All my friends that start seeing the sport because of me, they are asking, how can I get there? How can I do to compete in powerlifting? And it's, as Daniel said, people go to the gym as with for static gains. So, but they don't have the discipline. They don't want to continue practicing. And in powerlifting, we have this focus of mind. We have this discipline, and we want to keep going to the gyms. And of course, we need some special kind of gyms because this the how can I say this? These genes of there are networking genes that these branches, big branches, they don't have the structure for us. It's really hard to have to depend on CrossFit
Yes.
gyms, CrossFit boxes to train powerlifting because people uh, don't know the sport. So they, when I ask at the gyms, oh, how much this bar weighs, for example, they don't know. They
Yeah.
say, it's maybe 12, maybe 13 kilos, maybe
Yeah.
16, maybe 8. We don't know. So I think that if it's just like parties have to have more people knowing the sport, so we can spread for the genes, for the local governments investing in competitions, events of powerlifting. I think that would be great.
So, what have
There's
you?
a,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go
if I
ahead.
could
Sorry,
just,
Dan. Yeah.
yeah, if I could just add this, because I was gonna say it and it dropped my mind. The thing about talking in English is that it's much harder to remember the first things you said in the beginning. To just keep on, you
Yeah.
just you concatenate as you go, and some things are left behind. But let's go. But I was gonna say that for sure, the main vision that we have for now is to increase the number of women and master athletes. Those are
Okay.
the two populations that are usually underrepresented, and it doesn't really make it doesn't take much effort to gather more guys, more young guys, because they usually pay attention to where the girls are looking. So if we know how to manage the public's attention, is because we're gathering everyone's attention, not just
Yeah.
the usual audience in this sense. We The last Saturday I went to a city that's, well, you could say that is eastbound from Marco, so it's further from me, but it's called like Oyster River, Judas Oysters. So I went there and I did a deadlift championship, a deadlift event. They had more women than men. That was completely awesome. I have never heard of that, and it wasn't the intention. We tried to call out people to do it, and then at some point the sign up was really slow, and then we increased the deadline, but we instigated the trainers, and we said, look, it's best opportunity for everyone, because the beginners need like a confidence building event, and they need to feel like they're in their turf, to be able to step on the flat platform. That's why usually people only want to begin training when they have a shot at the medal, because oh,
Yeah.
it's too stressful for me to go without the knowledge that it's going to be worth the squeeze. And it's like, no, that's not it. You go to feel the weight of everything, and then you can decide if it's going to go. But they caught on to that idea, and at some point, the women just started subscribing like crazy. It was like over 20% more women, and it was
Fantastic.
so much fun. It was so much fun. It was very nice.
So, one of the reasons why I'm so happy to have this conversation with you guys is I know there are many countries where the athletes are struggling to get support and sponsorship from companies and from government level. And I think where you guys are sharing your story in the community worldwide, we can see that it's a common challenge. And where you guys are able to get something to happen, then other countries can use that as an example. And then one country gets something else to happen, and we can share that information in terms of how to work with local government and with regional government as well. So I think if we look at, and I don't know if you guys want to discuss anything in Portuguese now, you can, but I also have another idea, because I think the most of our audience is from your region, is we can have another show where we can you guys can just do it in Portuguese, and I'll just sit here and nod and pretend I understand what you guys say. But and then we can just sort of discuss the questions, and then if I have a question, you guys can fire it off. I think that
Well, we can also do the opposite, Nick. I mean, if most of our people of the people watching are from Brazil, then you
yeah.
can, I don't know, say something about yourself and your experience with the federation in South Africa, so we can know the host. You know.
Yeah, okay, cool, perfect. So I'll do that in Portuguese. Um,
Whoops.
Yeah, listen, and also Marco was teasing me because South African Portuguese is not so great, apparently. It's a little bit different. So I think, yeah, so a little bit of my background. I've been involved in the sport for about 10 or 12 years, maybe a bit longer. Too many injuries in martial arts and in fighting. So I decided, I'm getting old. I need to start moving on to something that's not going to stop me from working. I had an injury. I tore my transverse lateral ligament in my left ankle, being an uki, demonstrating being the guy who was demonstrating the throw. I was the victim.
Usually the ones who get hurt the most.
Yeah, correct. That's it. And well, yeah, that was not fun. And I got involved in powerlifting.
Was that karate, judo, or aikido?
Also karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, hisardut, Krav Maga, Western boxing. This was a kung fu move that we were doing. It was a scissor throw. And so I tore my ankle as the throw came on. I went down to grab my ankle. The throw came on, and I flipped back and landed on my head on the concrete. And so I'm holding my ankle and going, my head. And the guys are looking at me going, that's not your head. And then, when you're stupid, you go and sit on the side and you wait for it to get better and you carry on. So, yeah, I mean, I did a grading that was about 5 hours, and 2 hours into the grading, I dislocated my right hip and still carried on. So these are all fun things. So that being said, what I love about the sport, and for those watching, this is what I wanted to share, and this is what I'm trying to do with the podcast. The community is unbelievable. Everyone in the sport is like-minded. We want to get strong. We want to be healthier, and we want to become the best versions of ourselves. So as you said, time in the gym is not selfish. It's about becoming the best version of who we are, dealing with our stress, dealing with our anxiety. I have young coaches that I've developed from disadvantaged communities that have come through really challenging backgrounds, very, very, very poor backgrounds. So I suppose similar to your favela. Did I get that right?
Favela.
Okay,
Yes,
Favela.
Yeah, favela. Got it. So, and just giving them an opportunity, they started lifting at school so they could be better at rugby. And then they loved the lifting, and some stayed with the lifting, and others became coaches. And they really, this has become their life. So powerlifting is a wonderful
Amazing.
way to very quickly upskill as a coach and to continue going. And then you can start, all of these guys are working, except for two, are working as coaches, and either with our gym or with other gyms. So it's a great way to empower the youth. And also the big thing is that when you take, so something else just from my side, I've been sober for 16 years, and I've been working with addicts and alcoholics in recovery for 15 years. And the single greatest thing... Oh, yep.
You found a sober South African man. How did you do this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's amazing, huh? That's it. Yeah. Yeah, could help. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the thing is that with working with addicts, right? what's so amazing about that is if I take someone who's been in treatment for 2 weeks and doesn't want to be there, and I tell them do 10 push-ups, they'll take an hour not doing the push-ups. They'll have
Uh-huh.
excuses. They'll try this and this is sore and that's sore. But if I put them together with another addict who's also in treatment and I give them a challenge for who's going to win, then ego takes over and they will kill themselves. They'll do 250 and not be able to use their arms for a month. And I saw that and I realized that is in powerlifting as well. When you have kids that are exposed to challenging environments, right? Drugs, alcohol, gang violence, gang membership, all of these things, abuse at home, then what happens is, if you have somewhere to go that isn't on the street, you want to go there. But if you're a young man and you have somewhere to go because you don't want your friends bench pressing more than you, then you're definitely going. And it becomes much easier to make that decision. So for me, I think every government, at local level, at, federal level and at national level, should be putting in powerlifting gyms and developing coaches because that's the best way to keep kids off the street. I saw this in Cape Town where I went to a development in Philippi, which is also a very challenged township. There's taxi violence going on there at the moment. I think there's been 5 murders in the last 5 days and hundreds of
Yeah,
people injured. Very
I've been
difficult.
reading the
Yeah.
tension over there. Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah.
terrible.
So it's very, very upsetting. You've got good people just trying to get on with their lives. And they have this development is they built like a shopping center out of shipping containers. And then so for a few thousand, like 3,000 Rand, you can rent a container and you can build your business. And in that, there's also an office park where corporates have their offices. So a lot of the insurance companies have offices there. And in that building, there's a library. And a lot of the young girls after school, you talk about the ladies, go to the library to study. And then they stay there because it's a safe place for them. There's security to get into the center, there's security to get into the building, and there's security then to get into the library. And that's what these gyms can become. And I think, we talk for Brazil with jiu-jitsu. I hope I had that right. that
Oh, that was a good one.
that's and it's life, absolutely. It's absolutely fantastic because you go to the gym, you go to the dojo, and you're safe. And the same thing with the gyms. And this is what I would like to see happen from government level and from company level. You want to make a profound, real difference in the lives of youths and people from challenged communities. Put in a powerlifting gym, train up coaches, develop coaches, give these youth an opportunity. If we look at it, that they have, if you're going to apply to university or for a scholarship at school, another school, or for a job, and you've won a silver medal at a regional championship or at a national championship, it puts you above the other applicants because it shows, as you said, Daniel, commitment and dedication and focus. So that's really why I believe in this so strongly. And I think, the starting point really for any government or any company that wants to do this is build a gym. There has to be plenty of space available, buy the racks, buy the rigs. You've got a layout of a couple of $1,000 and then or maybe 10, 20, $30,000, and that's forever. You don't
Yeah.
you don't have to service an Olympic bar. You don't have to service a weight plate. They last forever. The same as kettlebells. I mean, Daniel, you can see my logo. I started my gym with kettlebells, and I have 1,750 kilograms of kettlebells. I'm a bit nuts, up to 60 kilos. So I love my bells, but
Oh,
yeah, and this is just a way that we can really really help the youth develop. You upskill them. You know, the thing with powerlifting as well, squat, bench, and deadlift is the foundation of any athlete training program. So they become a coach at the local gym. They start off as an athlete, they become a coach or an assistant coach, and then they can go to a high school and coach lifting there. And then, maybe a university or a sports team. And there's ways for them to earn a living and carry that honor, that self respect, that discipline, that camaraderie, that community, that passion through with it. My dream, we have 25,000 schools in South Africa. I want to put powerlifting into all of them. That's my life goal, because that's genuinely how you change a country.
Marco,
Yeah.
I gotta go, man, because if I don't hurry up, this guy's gonna take over, and we still
Yeah,
gotta win some
sorry.
medals. I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's me. All right, you guys go for it. Sorry, guys.
No, no, no.
No,
It was
that's
great.
a
Let me
great
ask you
aspect
something.
of this, the
Yeah.
politics, the potential of.
Mm.
I was a social educational officer. I don't know if you have that in South Africa. Do you know what it is?
Not, please, if you could
He was a
explain.
No, it's
jailer
like
in a juvie.
Hmm?
So does that make sense? He was a jailer in a juvie,
Okay,
like
perfect.
in.
Sure. Well, there you go.
for teenagers. For teenagers.
Yeah.
So here, yeah, here in Rio de Janeiro. So when you think about sports for them to resocialization, as they call here, they want to put them to play soccer, but it's just play,
Mm.
just play. They don't have a future in soccer. Here in Brazil, if you want to be professional soccer, the odds are against you.
Yes.
So in powerlifting, everyone can compete. There are different age, weight levels, then everybody, there's no obstacle to start competing in powerlifting. So they got a plan of living. They do, what can I say, they got more discipline, they got focus on
Mm-hmm.
training other than other bad things.
Mm.
So I think it's a great way to the government see the potential of powerlifting
Yes.
on these areas. So when you think about sport in Brazil, you have to play soccer. No, you don't have to play soccer. I don't play soccer. I love lifting weights.
Soccer's too
Uh,
dangerous.
yeah,
Oh my
that's
God!
You know?
Don't get me started. Which, at the same time, if we
Yeah.
have to be truthful, there is a charm to the sport in that sense, because you know that if you have 10 other people with you in a field and
Mm.
10 other people on the other side, risks are part of the charm.
Yeah.
And then people see us lifting one bar with a spotter directly behind. So there's no one else working against you, just gravity, which is also present in the soccer field. And they think our sport is dangerous. Like, but everyone's for me.
Yeah.
The only other person rooting against me is not even on the platform. Why am I doing something that's risky? But
Mm.
there's a real danger in that sort of line of thinking. And here in Brazil, well, if you've come from martial arts, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If you start teaching martial arts, the first thing you learn is that the kids will just come hopping in. I don't know. I was playing with my friends.
Mm.
Playing what? I'm just, kicking a ball around. And that's the first injury you're going to see. It's not from your mat, it's from outside.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
So,
unfortunate.
how do we start this process in Brazil? I mean, would building a gym, would be building a gym, having a gym equipped, and that as in a central place where the youth can come. Would that be a start?
Well, the thing that we're thinking in the last few years is the
Mm.
following. There's a need, if you imagine like like circles, like building around, or like circles in a pond,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get enough energy from the center to go forward. And if you meet any kind of resistance, you try to, either go around it or
Mm-hmm.
you try to kick it over. The first obstacles that we find is that people don't see themselves being able to do the sport. So it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter if I like do a big presentation. I've had the opportunity to put a powerlifting station, not full equipped, but enough, inside the university where me and the our federation's president, we graduated together and we got our undergraduate diploma together. So I had the access to the gym. I had bars, I had plates, I had benches. People came around, they looked, people who were studying theoretically the subject,
Mm.
and they didn't take any chance. They said, "No, that's too dangerous. That's not for me." And then they went to the martial arts mat, and then they went to the soccer field. So they are making choices even
Yeah.
when they have the opportunities. So before I actually go to places and put people to that, I had to understand. I have to understand what's keeping people from participating when the opportunities are already there. And
Hmm.
essentially, I mean, I am not 100% into the representation wagon, that's become commonplace today in our culture. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, we just have to put somebody's face, color, ethnicity, or whatever in that gender, and then they're going to see they can do it. Well, that's really like a backwards Renaissance thinking,
Hmm.
because usually it was whatever's in man is in me. So therefore, if he exists and I do what he does, I could do also. We got to the point where only if he has the same characteristics that I have can
Mm.
I do it. But there is something about taking the risk. Well, maybe I can do it, but I'm gonna be much. I don't know. There's something about him that I don't know what it is that makes him bold and I don't know dedicated. And if you see somebody from a parallel situation from yours and you can do it, so what I've been thinking actually is not gyms per se,
Mm.
because gyms are already is not like building a gym from scratch, but it's trying to get more people because we have actually more people outside of gyms than inside of gyms here in
Yeah.
Brazil, which I think is mostly what you find in Western countries. So if we could just gather the people who are outside and put them in the powerlifting, setup, whatever it is, however crude or unspecific, but if you get a commercial gym and you have access to bars and a bench,
Hmm.
that person who's not usually training now is already a beacon. Because I'm actually saying, look, you don't need to be like Marco, who spent 20 years in the gym before he got on a platform. No, you can actually start practicing what we're doing from the beginning with good instruction and fairly
Hmm.
okay equipment. But from the youth perspective, what I've been talking to Marco about, and also there's another athlete of mine who just commented, said you sound like Arnold, Nick. I'm sorry, but I think he means, buff and masculine, not
Yeah.
just
It is not a
like,
problem to tell me I sound like Arnold because these are things that we can do. Okay, as long as you get to the chopper.
okay,
Come on, let's go, guys. Come on, let's go.
perfect. So so he's an English teacher here in Brazil, and he does accreditation. So
Hmm.
he certifies people that are doing like international tests, and also prepares people for them. So we've been discussing with him and with Marco the possibility of putting up like a English powerlifting course. So
Hmm.
you would get the two stimulus. You would find out what the sport is and practice it, and you would also get in contact with the language, the terminology, because actually we have a problem with the trainers here in Brazil for a lot of the times, I don't know, we people post some stories on Instagram, and I see a trainer going, "Oh, that's a pin press," and like he puts it on like, and we go, "I'm sorry, man, that's not a pin press. You're
Hmm.
mistaken. That's not the terminology right for the exercise, which is all right. You're still doing with good technique, but that's not the name." And his response was, "Well, you think you know more than the trainer who went to the international meet and got the medal?" And I go, "Yes, I can, because the medal is not about your terminology; it's about the lift." So you could have a problem with knowing the name of the exercise,
Mm.
and the root cause is he doesn't know English very well.
Yes.
So that excludes most people
Sure.
from enjoying what powerlifting has, which is if you don't know how to speak in English, like
Mm.
people are amazed with the Russian now in CrossFit Games because the guy speaks no English, but he's got like legs forever.
Mm.
No pun intended, because I know he hurt his leg and still, but he's got a good condition, good strength. But he can overcome. He only overcame the English barrier because he's got people helping him, and we
Yes.
have to help people over here get over the fear of speaking English, the fear of learning English. And that's
Hmm.
what we're actually thinking. That it's not about new powerlifting gyms, it's
Yep.
more about less fear of introduction and English, proximity. Let's call
Right.
it like this.
So it's such a valid point that you made, and I experienced this when I work as technical controller. So a little bit of my background is I'm now a Category 2 international referee, and I've also got my coaching license level 2 through the IPF, which I did, I think, about 6 years ago, 5 years in Spain. It was magnificent. The food was fantastic, and the coaching was epic. But so the big thing is powerlifting is an English language sport, because these were the challenges that we faced as technical controller. Now, also, that the guys are not speaking English to you, even though you've seen them speak English, you know, so they can get away with stuff. So, from my side, I've learned a little bit in each
It's the
language.
classic. I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
That
exactly.
international sign of I don't get it. I don't get it.
So, but it is, I think it brings that confidence and that comfort, and the ability to speak English is, that's the international business language currently. So it's a wonderful, wonderful idea. You know, the the one thing I just wanted to share, which I'm quite passionate about. So, Marco, we haven't really discussed sort of my background, or guys, what I've been through. Went through a pretty challenging childhood, and my experience then working with the addicts, and Marco, speaking to you about working with juveniles in detention. What I've realized is, in recovery, I've met tens of thousands of people in recovery, addicts. I've never met a bad person. I've met good people who have done terrible things, and myself included. So when you have these kids that are incarcerated, just because they've done bad things, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. And it's an
Sure.
opportunity to, with the powerlifting, to find a purpose and to find a reason. If you don't value yourself, you're not going to value anything else. And if you're raised in a way, particularly with abuse, with child abuse, you know, then there's no you believe you're a thing, and everything else is a thing. So the way to gradually teach people that they have value is powerlifting, because of the gradual gains. I know I can't bench 50 kilos, but my coach teaches me for 3 months, and suddenly I can do it. Then I start to question the other things I believe about myself that I can't do. Excuse me. I made my pink juice for Women's Day in South Africa, but it's got berries in it, so I think they're getting caught in the back of my throat. So that's how powerful the sport is, because progression is linear, and it's stuff you have to work for. Teaches you to delay your gratification. It teaches you that if you want something, you have to work for it, and you can't have it now. These are the beautiful things. So I think, as a starting point, your idea is absolutely phenomenal, but maybe that could be incorporated in working with youth, setting up a youth gym. I don't know if that would help with funding more, and then training these guys, the youth, to be power lifters, both the guys and the girls, and then teaching them to be coaches as well. And what happens is, you got to spread it like a virus, where you infect them with self-belief, and you infect them with the way to develop self-belief. They can start to spread that, and that's how we get to change lives. And then from the public training, those can become the clients. So I don't know how you guys feel about that as an idea.
Yeah, the
Oh,
first idea usually was precisely
Mm,
working with kids,
mm,
especially because these juvenile detentions and this management of um, I don't know how they usually call it, but the delinquents, the kids and youth which are dealing with this, they are
yes,
usually state or local responsibility. So we have, and usually if we go where they are, the like Marco had that
mm,
experience. It is easier to work with municipal hall,
yes,
city hall, than to like take a plane and go to the federal minister and try
mm,
to,
mm,
hey, please just give us something.
but I think it's like this,
So
that we have to
mm,
start locally,
mm,
so to expand for other the state government see that what the city is doing for the powerlifting,
mm,
what are the projects, and the I think people are searching for social projects to
mm,
do, because they don't have the
mm,
imagination to do different things. They got, as we told, we got stuck with soccer. We've
mm,
got stuck with Olympic sports that just appear in 4 years. In 4 years, they just appear like this. And powerlifting, as Daniel told us, that we're having smaller competitions locally. So we have to expose the sport locally to get bigger nationally.
mm,
So I think that's the way, as you told, that social area for the sport, that will be a great passport for government investments in the sport.
and that can be sort of I think if you can show it with the youth in, perhaps in one of the detention center, or somewhere where it can really help these troubled youth, then there's an opportunity to roll it out at a school, because you have proof. And then when it performs at the school, you can roll it out a little bit more and get, I think with a long term view for powerlifting, the more school kids you're getting involved, you can carry that through. And then their parents are all masters, and they can come and compete and participate as well. So that's the value. I think if you guys were going to speak to, so let's say we're speaking to and by the way, I love Fabio's comment, powerlifting made me much more disciplined in other areas of my life as well. And it's so true. That's it. It teaches you that how to plan and how to program. You're programming for lifting, you're programming for life. But so if you guys were speaking to your government minister, where you haven't hopped on a plane, but you're speaking to someone, and go, what would you say to them why they need to get involved? And then you can share this clip with them.
well, Marco is the one who had the experience as a preacher. So
Mm.
if anyone's gonna get us through that door, it's gonna be him. Just go, Marco.
Not a preacher, just a deacon, a server. And me and Daniel, we are both Christians, so we got along really well because the same idea, because we do everything for the glory of God, so
Mm-hmm.
we have to do it perfectly. So it's the discipline that we focus.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do the everything in the best way as
Yeah.
possible. So I think what I would tell I think it's like the mayor, the local government, is they have the money to invest in sport, but they
Mm.
don't know where, because we have to show them that what the powerlifting, how great the sport
Mm.
is, because everyone that gets into sport, they get into a friendly place. You see in the competition, everybody support each other. It's not like no, I'm gonna get you. So, as example, my first powerlifting competitions, the bench press
Mm,
competitions, I went without my coach Daniel. He was working,
mm,
and I got the support for other coaches from other teams. They that were competing against me, and they supported me there
mm-hmm.
as I was part of his team. As when I went to South Africa, the South African team, they adopted me. Uh, they told me they even lent me tennis shoes to compete
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I have a problem there with one of the referees. And the person exactly that gave me the tennis shoes there was on my category. He was competing against me. So you see that friendly environment everywhere we go. So it's a
Absolutely.
sport for the community.
Yes.
It's a sport that put people together. So we have the same purpose that it's going to get better if we cheer that when somebody else go get a record, we
Mm-hmm.
get really happy, and we want to get we see our limits in other persons. So it's a great sport. So we have to throw out the good word of powerlifting to our governments.
Absolutely, 100%. You know, the thing is, when you get stronger, it forces me to get stronger. So,
Exactly.
you know, that's it. And I think, Marco, we just need to let people know you don't have to shave your head to be a power lifter. It's not.
I usually say that that's from
But it's good.
all the
It's
strength,
good.
just falls off.
Yeah, it helps get the bench shirt on easier, but yeah. All right, okay, awesome. Yeah.
There was a joke from like a sketch from a like a comic few years
Mm,
ago when he said, "Well, I used to be no good in life. I couldn't do anything right. Nobody took me for like for real. You know, nobody
mm.
respected me. But then I just realized that I have to shave and put on a goatee. And if you shave and put on a goatee, you look like a bad bouncer, and nobody wants to mess
Yeah.
with a bad bouncer. So that's that's it.
100%. I thought that was only a South African thing with the shaved head and the goatee. Huh? Absolutely. So I think what is the next step for you? What would you guys want to do? What do you want to happen with powerlifting in Brazil?
Well, I want to see Marco lifting to his full potential again. He's been
Hmm.
dealing with a few injuries, chest and shoulder, which we're getting around, and very gladly working with another philosophy. I'm actually drawing more from Body Shaker
Losing a
now.
lot of
Hey!
pace.
Yeah, he's got some merch over there. I was gonna ask, is that like deodorant?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like he can explain better.
Yeah.
It's for
So
sore shoulders.
we've got two products we've produced. That's our cold rub, and then we've got a hot rub. So that's called chillax, and then there's
Oh,
but it's got stuff for arnica oil in it, and a lot of stuff that'll heal. And that's the hot rub, nice and warm. Yeah. So one's for warming up and one's for cooling down. But also, if you've got a bit of aches and pains, you can put it on, and it helps.
uh-huh.
It helps heal. So supposedly, yeah.
So
Listen,
that
that's the feedback we've had. So,
it's like
awesome.
the powerlifting tiger bomb, you know.
Yep, that
Yeah.
powerlifting tiger bomb. Effectively, that's it. Oh, I'm so
Okay.
happy to see that, dude. Thank you.
But we've been putting him on again on the bandwagon, and
Mm,
he's dealing more with volume over now because he
mhm,
used to be a very intensive guy. He used to wear out any more extensive warm up that I gave him, and he was
mm.
already a problem. And now we're actually building this larger base for him to get more extensive benching lifetime, and he's gonna be great. As soon as we can get around that corner,
Okay,
we can see great things for his future. For the
awesome.
sport,
Mm,
I can tell you that we're looking. I think next year two things are coming. The first one is that we're gonna get probably some international funding. We're gonna get some international brands starting
mhm,
to invest in our local meets. which are starting to rival with the national meets in terms of athlete size. We're starting to get
Hmm.
out to the third, even fourth day of competition, and so it's gonna be another kind of ride. And maybe because of that size and scope, we're gonna be able to, shake something in the to gather
Hmm.
some governmental attention. And I think that to answer the other question that you asked, what was I gonna say to the minister, whatever? I was probably just gonna say, hey, I've got a solution for you because they've got the problems. We've actually got the
Yeah.
solutions. They have demanding, necessities to invest money. So the funny thing is when you talk about governmental budget, most of the time we think of budget as there's a demand, and then we ask for somebody to give us the budget, and then the budget matches the demand that we
Hmm.
give them. But government does the other way around. They actually imagine a demand if they don't have any idea of how to meet. They don't know the solutions to meet the demand.
Hmm.
They do projection. They don't even ask the supporter because I have yet to receive a letter or an email to see if I agree with the national budget for next year because it's my money, but they don't care if I agree. They're just gonna tax me.
Hmm.
And then they say to every single congressman, they have like this imposing amends. That's how they call it. So they can send money to certain institutions or certain projects or whatever, and nobody can, as long as it fits the technical criteria of the minister of the subject, so the sports minister, the health minister. If it fits the criteria, you cannot deny it. So
Hmm.
if the congressman says it fits the criteria, that's the institution, they have to get it. They
Okay.
have two sort of like budgets that you can send. It's like the dedicated one, so it's like to get like generic, just to pay for usually rundowns, so like electrical bills or whatever,
Hmm.
or to keep the institution going, or you have specific ones to fund projects. So if you have a project that you need material, you require something more solid, then you can also do that one. I think next year we're gonna go that rabbit hole, and I'm actually more confident than I was hearing the project for the first time because it looks like we have we have a better shot than other sports. Like for instance, I cannot imagine what would be like for like a aquatic federation to just say, "Hey, build us a pool." It's like, oh Jesus, how much stuff do you need to keep a pool functioning? Every single day you need to. In our case, you have ways to make use of that equipment for powerlifting like
Hmm.
all of the time. So I think next year we're gonna go through in that direction. And if I can, I'm gonna push Marco to be our. You know, we had a character a few years ago who was a strongman. I think he never went international, but his name I don't recall his name, but his nickname used to be the Children's King, Rei das Criancinhas. So he was a guy like a very scrumptious guy who's like talk loud and whatever, but for no other reason, he used to sell himself as the king of the children. And I think that Marco is the next king of the children in that sense. I've already envisioned that for him, and that's what I'm gonna go for.
Awesome,
That's
dude.
my submission.
Yeah. Whether he likes it or not, that's the new role.
Yeah, I don't even have to ask.
And his project. That's okay.
Absolutely. But just so obviously the value of YouTube and these the platforms is we're going out live now. But if people are watching at a later date or now, they can just post a comment on if you have an idea how you can help grow powerlifting in Brazil, or if you've had something in your own country that's worked with you getting funding, with bringing funding on board from a government level, from a state level, or from the private sector. That'll be something great to have as well. So share your comments. We can try and get a conversation going around this. So, but you guys are moving in the right direction, and you're seeing powerlifting growing.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Are you looking at hosting any international competitions? 'Cause I know there's a comp in
Oh,
Cancun that's coming up now, I believe.
yeah. So we have actually we could deal with like three kind. We actually have four kinds of competitions that we can host right here.
Mm,
The worlds, obviously, any kind of worlds, Pan Am's,
yes.
South American, I'm sorry, and also Arnold's.
Mm,
You know, the Arnold Classics that usually happen. They don't host Arnold Classics anymore in Rio, not since 2015 or 16, I guess. There was like a management decision; they don't come here anymore. But from Brazil, we still receive that one in São Paulo, which is
mm-hmm,
another state. We received in it wasn't in Rio. No, we still haven't received an international meet in Rio, but for now, it's not really our intention. Not
mm,
because we don't want them, but usually what happens is we set any kinds of the bigger the event, the more saturated the participants get.
mm-hmm,
And on local federations, the ball just cannot drop. You got something next 3 or to 6 months, and if somebody gets burned because of all the work and all the demands, we're gonna be hopping on one leg for
yeah.
a relatively long and painful time. So we don't want that kind of stuff. We had national bench pressing championships on 2020. It's like 1 week before the pandemic hit. It was
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Wow.
And we also had, and then we were gonna have in the beginning of 2021 the national championship for powerlifting, and it got delayed to October. And then we did it in October, and it was like with a by the skin of the, how do you say, by
Mm-hmm. Skin of your teeth.
the
Yeah.
skin of your teeth, which doesn't make any sense for me because there's no skin in my teeth, and so I still haven't figured out what the expression means. If I'm not biting to
Yeah.
someone, there's no
Yeah.
skin in my teeth. But okay, I get it. So we did it, and I looked at the president and said, "We're going to take a while before we do it again." And he goes, "Yeah, no, we still got a lot of stuff to go on." But
Mm.
it was a very good opportunity to put things in perspective and know what we need to do better.
Okay, 100%. But it's a very valid point. You don't want to get distracted with competitions or trying to host internationals while you're still looking to grow and develop the sport. So, and bring on the funding side. How many, do you know how many affiliated lifters you have?
To the number. I believe we're between 75 and 80 right
Okay.
here in Brazil, in Rio, which is already subdimensioned because many people only come and affiliate themselves to the federation when championships happen.
Yes.
So we're probably at around 85 to 90 in October when we have our state bench press championship.
Mm-hmm.
And each year we'll be adding between like 10 to 15 because we've
Okay.
really got traction at beginning for last year on this
Mm.
kind of affiliation because we usually didn't charge people to affiliate to the federation. There was a feeling that now we're just going to charge the entry fee, but
Mm.
that creates a problem where we don't have enough cash flow
Yeah.
to go through the year, and also people they tend to look at like a service, like a one-time service where you
Mm.
go and you play and then you leave, which is really not the nature of the sport. You have to make part of it.
Absolutely. You have to stay with it.
I don't know. I think in Brazil, our federation, I think about 300, 400 athletes that
Okay.
are federated. I think
Okay. Cool.
there are more people competing, but as Daniel said,
Yeah.
just a few ones are that they have the federation fee paid.
Okay. So I think it's listen. Those are similar numbers to South Africa as well. I'm sure there are a lot of lifters. We have a competition this weekend at the gym here, Barbell Bullies. I'm not sure if you met Henk and Laura and any of the bullies when you were at Sun City. Great guys, and it's an introductory comp. So there's no weight classes. You come and lift. If you want to know your IPF, your Wilks points, then you can do a weigh-in. So it's a great introductory fun comp. And I encourage you guys to have a look. I think it's going to start 9 a.m. South African time, 10 a.m. South African time on Saturday and Sunday. But like those fun things where we're trying to bring people in to affiliate as well. There are other federations, that aren't sanctioned by SASCOC or the IOC. So I think growing the IPF affiliation is really the right way to go, because we get the representation of all the countries, and particularly getting ladies involved. It's a great way to grow the reputation and the credibility, which we know of the sport, but internationally. So there's another. Can you see that comment from Helena?
Yeah. It's my physiotherapist that helps me a lot.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Elena, for being here. Thank you for the support. Also, I have now a nutritionist that's helping me to also Carolina Peçanha.
You're looking a little bit leaner. Hey, okay. Did you tell them about all the ice cream and the hamburgers in Sun City in South Africa?
No.
No. He was very good.
South Africa, stay in South Africa.
Yeah.
Sun City, not Sin City. Okay.
Yeah,
exactly. People that are here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunny City. Oh, fantastic. I know, just maybe in closing, one of the things that we chatted about, what Mario was doing a South Africa and Brazil competition. So, maybe we can chat to our respective sports ministries and see if that's something that we could make happen, because I know South Africa and Brazil do have a good working relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be Battle of the South, something like that. So that would be something.
That's the kind of thing that I talked to you, because the federal government sees the opportunity to have that links with Brazil and Africa, and South Africa. So it's a good way to expose the sport in the federal level. So that what we're doing here locally, I think we'd get better and get bigger to get to the federal government to see the potential of powerlifting, also in diplomatics. So
yes, 100%. So
Yeah.
maybe there's two things that we can work on with this. Firstly, we can. I'm going to see what we need to do to get the ball rolling on having a competition. But maybe we can see if we can get a minister on, and we can get a South African and a Brazilian, and then have ourselves on and have a discussion on the podcast about how we can grow powerlifting. So I think what we can do is, our federations are a similar size. I think there's a lot of similarities between South Africa and Brazil, and I think a tour to Brazil or a tour to South Africa would be fantastic. And we want you guys to come here, so you have to deal with the time difference. but then we'd have to have the competition at 3 a.m, so make it fair. I think that would be a great way.
Funny.
Yep. Pardon?
It's funny, Nick, because you mentioned that South African Portuguese probably know this, but we have there are important Portuguese people who went by South Africa. Cape Town is actually named because of it used to be like Storm Cape, and then became Good Hope. How do you call it in English? Is Good Hope Cape?
Yeah, Cape of Good Hope.
Cape of Good Hope,
Yeah, well, there's Bartholomew Diaz. Discovered the Cape.
Bartholomew Diaz, exactly.
Yeah.
So he talked about the chance where he got to defeat the giant Adamastor, which was the giant who just flopped the waves all around and then crushed the ships.
Yep.
I have Portuguese background. My father's Portuguese, so South Africa is already a place in our hearts from the get-go.
Awesome, that's fantastic. So I think that's some work for us to do, guys. Really, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you making it and scheduling it, and it's been fantastic. I think just from our audience, those who are still watching, we got quite a few on. If there's any questions, post them now quickly. Do you guys want to finish in anything in Portuguese that you would just like to add?
Yeah, it's okay. I like to hear Marco speak in English. It's
me too. or as we call him
No,
in
because
South.
it gives me the confidence. I had never heard him talking in English before he went to South Africa. So in my mind, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, is he gonna get there? What am I?
No, but it's really hard for me to speak English right now. I can listen everything you are saying, so I have a problem with the headset.
Mm.
So I'm talking like in slow motion. I don't know, but I think you could understand mostly what I say. So it's
No,
okay.
no, Marco, it's fantastic.
Sounds
You're
good.
doing brilliantly wrong. You're doing brilliantly, not brilliantly wrong. So really, really, yeah, thank you. Oh, thanks, Nicholas. Thank you. Kisses. Oh, we got to give you we got Marco. We got to give you a kiss. So, mwah. See, there we go. Huh? That's it. Oh, beautiful. And thank you to your dad as well for listening. Thank you to everyone who shared their comments and their thoughts. We really appreciate it. It's been great. And guys, I look forward to doing this again. And you know what? I'm going to have a chat. Let's see if we can get someone from our government side interested in having a conversation and from yours. And I think a fun way to grow this would be having a competition between our two countries. I think that is something that would be
It'd be
very, very
perfect, man.
special.
It'd be
Huh?
perfect.
Well, you guys
It's a
are
great.
already invited. You just have to come here and then we'll set it up. It's fine.
Okay, excellent,
That's
You
it.
can
excellent.
count on us.
All right, fantastic, guys. I'm going to
Okay.
end the live stream and then I'll chat to you quickly. So to everyone who's been watching, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to come through and support us. Please do share this podcast with other people in powerlifting, with people who you think would benefit from getting into the sport. We do this because we want to grow the sport. We do this because we know the value and the benefit, hey guys, that people can get from being participants in this fantastic community. I mean, we haven't even touched on the community yet that we can do in another chat. So really, please share it, please subscribe, please like, and help us grow our passion for the sport. All right, thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, Nick, for your initiative for lifting, powerlifting. So
I
that's
love
great,
that.
man.
That's fantastic. 100%. Thank you. All right, guys, I'll be with you in 1 sec.